Welcome to La Glaze, to another Series 2 replay cast. And this is a game that I uploaded yesterday but didn't have audio, so I already know what happens, I already know how the game works, and how it's gonna end, but I'm just gonna be least spoily as possible. So we're gonna have Ironhide playing as Soviets, who sent in the replay. Thank you, Ironhide, for sending in the replay, and I'm sorry if I kind of failed with you, but hey. Kerry Sandman, British, gonna be his ally. Gabasaway, British also, and Keifu playing as the oh so lovely Soviets. On the enemy team, we're gonna have Saran playing as the OKW, Miss Chichi Rodriguez playing as the Wehrmacht, El Perro playing as OKW, and again Big Devil playing as the Wehrmacht. So La Glaze, whatever you want to call it. I'm pretty sure it's La Glaze, but hey. Pretty big map, very wide front, pretty big town in the middle, lots of buildings, few little farms at both sides with fuel points, and victory points spread out all along. So pretty standard layout, nothing new, nothing weird, in case you've never seen the map. A lot of people don't like this map, but I'm okay with it. So we're going to have Ironhide here. He's going to go for tier 1, getting some penals out. He's going to get a lot of penals, and it's going to work out fairly well for him. Penals are very good once sped up, so that's why they can be pretty decent, and also because of their flamethrowers. Once you get a lot of munitions out, you can definitely do some work with them. So the Stern Pioneers are going to attempt in this first engagement to dislodge these conscripts from the church, but it's really not going to work out because the conscripts in the church have pretty good defensive position and can fire out with 4 windows out of the Stern Pioneers, so there's really no big advantage for them. On the right side, the British are starting to cap up. They're going to turtle fairly heavily in this area, but that's no surprise because it's British. They're always the turtles. This guy's going to go, Kerry Sandman, he's going to go Mobile Assault, which is an excellent doctrine in case you would want to have the Land Mattress or the M2 Flamethrower for the Engineers. You will see how that works out later on. The other British guy, Gabasaway, went for 2 MGs in the beginning. This is going to turn out to be a pretty shitty decision because, of course, these MGs are pretty much alone and they have no supporting units because he's also playing alone. He's not using his ally to help him up. His ally over here, Kfu, is also going to be in a pretty deep shit from Sauron because he's alone, and soon enough his own ally, the British, are going to have their own troubles because of their weird starting build, as you can see. Ironhide in the center is bringing up his penal. Going to fire on these folk Grenadiers, which aren't being too monitored, so they're in pretty much open cover. That's kind of a problem for them. On the right side, we have a mortar out from Big Devil, which is a good idea, because right now the British are making good use of the buildings and this universal carrier to push them back. But thanks to this MG that managed to get set up to the house in the mortar, now the Germans will be able to push up with some Grenadiers and destroy the universal carrier. So that was pretty good for them.
The enemy hit our armor rather badly.
Pretty big loss for the British in the early game. And the second infantry section that was coming up to support also got pinned by the MG42, so that is an excellent play for the Wehrmacht on the right side. The British over here, the Gabasaway is still pushing up. He's went for Vanguard operations. He's still pushing up, but he's having his first difficulties because he lost his MG, which was in his house, from mortar fire, and now he's lost his universal carrier as well. So both universal carriers going down, not really paying off at all for the British players. That will definitely set them back a lot in the early game. So the penals are still attempting to push up in the center, but we have some pretty good defensive positions being taken by the Germans. The Stern Pioneers are attempting to push up, but they will be pretty much forced back by the concentrated fire of the penals. The second Volksgrenadier squad over here might go down, but it doesn't look like he's noticing nor focus firing the squad, which is a mistake. If he had noticed the squad and focus fired it with his own penals, Ironhide would have been able to wipe that squad out. We have shock rifle being selected by him. Shock rifle is obviously a really good doctrine all the time for the Soviets. Nice flank over here from Miss Chichi. She's gonna attempt, or him or her, whatever. She's gonna attempt to push up against these grouped up team weapons from the Soviets, and it's gonna be pretty ineffective at first because of these pioneers being not retreated early enough. So he will have to rebuild the pioneer squad, but at the same time he's gonna manage to get a rifle grenade down on this Maxim, and at the same time the OKW Sauron is attempting to push up on the other side, gonna try to dislodge this flamethrower engineer and the Maxim. So the flamethrower engineer gets wiped by a mortar shot. The Maxim also gets wiped by a mortar shot, along with the grenadiers helping out with the damage. And the flamethrower is recovered by the Volksgrenadiers, so that's an excellent maneuver for the Germans. as Volksgrenadier squad with flamethrower is indeed a very scary thing. Mortar pit going down from Gabas away. Pretty good decision out of him because he really needs to get that pressure going against this house. I'm getting a bit of hiccups, which is not good as a caster, but hey, I'm gonna just soldier through that because fuck that. No real issue there. The Maxim is still doing some pretty good work in pulsing the German attack, but most of the damage was already done. The flamethrower and the Maxim were lost to the enemy, and that's pretty bad, and it's gonna make the life of the allies on the side a lot harder. So we have some mines going down from Gabas away, which is a good idea, because of course if the Germans do attempt to use their fuel advantage, right now they have a fuel advantage, if they do attempt to use that to just get out the early vehicles, and the mines will be important to stop it. And we have the infrared half-track out of Sauron. This is a really good unit in 4v4s, and 3v3s, and also sometimes 2v2s, just to provide scouting and allowing you to counter the enemy's moves much more effectively, and also to scout out defenses such as this mortar pit, just so you can use your support guns, mortars, and such to destroy them. So a battle group headquarters will be going down in a pretty precarious position because it's in a kind of a vulnerable location. If the enemy comes out of this rise over here where they have the buildings as well to provide them extra cover, this is a pretty vulnerable spot, though it will not be exploited too much by the allies as they will be very focused on fighting in the center. Ironhide right now is playing the role of trying to hold the center and its VP because he knows that his ally, while he's holding the fuel point, he doesn't really have the strength to push up to the VP. So it looks like a Storm Pioneer squad will go down from the Penals, which is excellent for the Soviets, as that will reduce the offensive power of the OKW by quite a bit. So Ironhide looks like he will attempt to push up and make a flanking maneuver against these machine guns that are pestering his ally. And it seems that it will work out fairly well, as this MG is caught without any kind of support. Now the Grenadiers are attempting to push up in support, but they will be not in time as the MG is forced to retreat. At the same time, the second machine gun from the south dealing some pretty good damage to this one penal spot, forcing it to retreat, but a flamethrower Brand carrier will force it away from the house. That's a really good play, getting out that Brand carrier with a flamethrower. Even though you've lost the other carrier, he got a second one because it's a fairly cheap unit, only 210 manpower. So getting the second one just to get the flamethrower is a pretty good choice to clear out those houses that he desperately needed to clear out. Maxim will attempt to push up into this house to deal some heavy damage to these Grenadiers that are out in the open, but there's also another stolen Maxim. It's going to start to fire upon the Maxim in the house. The Grenadier squads are being suppressed though, so that's pretty good for him. He's going to push up with his own shock troops. And the second shock troop squad from the left will actually throw a smoke grenade and not a regular grenade. If that was a regular grenade, that MG would have been wiped. Of course, he didn't know that he would be retreating so early. So we have a flame half-track going up for Big Devil. This flame half-track is going to be a pain for the allies for pretty much the entirety of the game. We have a scout car from Ironhide. It's only got 2 kills. It's been around for a while, but it's not being able to do much because Ironhide, something that I haven't shown, is he's starting to plant mines all over the center and right side of the map, which is an excellent move, but it's been delaying his flamethrower purchase on his engineers. So only now he can manage to truly get his engineers into the scout car and do some damage in that way. As you can see, the support gun is already starting to fire up on the defenses of the allies in this area. Of course, it's actually also firing at these this machine gun and these shock troops a Fallschirmjäger squad is being called in by Sauron. Sauron then go for Luftwaffe ground forces. Luftwaffe ground forces is definitely a pretty decent commander in all situations, a bit like Shock Rifle Frontline, but sometimes, of course, the excessive Fallschirmjäger spam is a temptation and a danger that you don't want to be falling into. Because, of course, they are a very expensive unit, both to build and to maintain, so you don't want to be overdoing on it, but a lot of people do overdo on Fallschirmjägers. Miss Chi went for German Mechanized Doctrine, which is a really good doctrine for the Command Panzer in the later stages of the game and the artillery, but it's kind of lackluster in the early game, as you don't really have anything to help you out with the earlier stages. El Perro went for fortifications, as there's pretty much no fighting. I'm just going to talk about doctrine selection. Fortifications can be a good doctrine in case you need some kind of defensive positions, but it's very vulnerable to enemy artillery. The MG34 is obviously fantastic, and the zeroing artillery is an excellent ability if you can keep line of sight on it. It's going to pump down a lot of shells, especially useful for sim cities that are also popular these days. It's definitely a really good artillery ability to just destroy any kind of static force. An excellent flank from the Penals will force the machine gun out of the building. Machine gun was firing at conscripts that were pushing up to try and decap this strategic point outside the base, but they did find the medical HQ over here, which has the retreat point being upgraded, and that forced the MG to reposition, and the Penals did make use of that fairly well, pushing up to the house and forcing it in their own hands. So demo charge along with a T-70, the first armored unit on the field. Fairly late T-70, but excellent demo charge, by the way. The demo charge was in a very weird spot, but it still managed to get a nice wipe out of it, so that's pretty good. The allies right now, thanks to Ironhide's push, have been able to pretty much secure the right side, but the Flame Halftrack is starting to make its way back onto the field and forcing away some of the allied infantry. Of course, the main weakness of Penals is the fact that in the later stages of the game, they really lack the ability to throw anti-tank grenades, which is also essential to units in this stage of the game. So we have the first squad of shock troops being called in by Ironhide. Not really sure I agree with this shock troop decision. He's got a lot of fuel. Possibly a tier 3 would have served him better for some Su-76s in case the Germans were to come out with some kind of light or medium armor. The Su-76 would be very important to bridge the gap to the KV Flamethrower and the S2. Big Devil still hasn't chosen the doctrine, but I believe he will choose mobile defense at the end. But it's really not an important tool for him at all. So the Flame Halftrack, as you can see, is attempting to push up against the machine gun. Machine gun wisely repositioning out of the house that was camping because, well, the Flame Halftrack is very scary, and the Bofor is dealing heavy damage to the Flame Halftrack, forcing it to retreat. Wisely retreats with smoke covering it and also a building covering it, just to avoid the worst possible scenario of being destroyed by the Bofors. So the T-70 is attempting to push up in the middle, getting shot at by some Shreks, but the Shreks will be forced to retreat by the Maxim and the flank from Ironhide. Ironhide is starting to help out his allies on the flanks, and that's lost them the middle VP a couple of times, and as you can see, the allies have been bleeding a lot of VPs, but at the same time his own flanks have been helping smooth out things for his own allies. He's going to attempt to make an assault on his medical HQ, but this is a bit of an overextension, as the enemies don't really have that many units, the OPW enemy, but more units are streaming in from the allies of what's his name, El Perro, to help him out. Shock troops are going to be able to acquire a Shrek from a fallen Volksgrenadier, so that's really good for Kfu. Kfu is down to pretty much no units. His own Maxim should be retreated right now and reinforced, which is a very important unit for him because, well, he's Vet 2, so he really needs that veterancy, extra veterancy for the suppression. Ironhide also teched into tier 2. He didn't tech into tier 3, but he teched into tier 2. Tier 2 is always a good idea when you went for tier 1 in team games, as the AT guns are a very important unit, and also the Maxim can be a very useful tool in the later stages of the game. So that's good that he went for that. The T-70 is attempting to push up against this half track from Miss Chi-Chi, but it will be Panzer-Fausted by this Grenadier squad. It's a bit too overextended and not really able to do much to save itself. It's starting to fire on these on this machine gun squad, but despite the damage it's doing, it's in a very precarious spot and will probably go down. So it looks like some... No, that was just smoke of the building burning from the incendiary grenade. It looked like there was a other kind of smoke. So we have some incendiary artillery, it looks like, from food being called down. And these squads, these Fox Grenadier squads, are going to go down fairly easily to the incendiary artillery, T-70, and infantry assault combination. And the battle group headquarters is being destroyed by the Zis gun, so wisely using the Zis gun to destroy the HQ. And right now, the Allies have been able to push up against the cutoff point as well, so Sauron right now is cut off from all resources. He's floating a lot. The AC that the British built has been able to deal some pretty significant damage to the Germans. So that's really good for the Allies right now. Some more Fallschirmjägers being called down. Again, Sauron was playing really well earlier on in the game, but right now he's just having a lot of problems because he's over-investing into Fallschirmjägers. He's already lost one squad of them, and he would have been more well suited to going for a King Tiger or something. Because he did go for battle group headquarters, and he does have a supply half track in the base, so if he went for the mechanized regiment headquarters, he would only be about 130 fuel away from a King Tiger. No, more like 140 fuel away from a King Tiger. And that would definitely be really good for him. AT gun attempting to use camouflage to push up, but we have a Panzer IV from Miss Chi-Chi. Miss Chi-Chi gonna be able to call in the command Panzer fairly soon. We'll see if he does that. The Germans are starting to push back into the right side of the map, but the British defenses are forcing them back from the cutoff in the vital fuel point. So the Allies right now are starting to regain fuel superiority and general resource superiority thanks to their wide and liberal usage of fuel caches, because at this point into the game, getting fuel caches is a really important part of just being able to maintain a steady flow of resources and have the superiority over the enemy. The Panzer II Lux is on the field from El Ferro. Now, when I was casting it earlier, I was crying out for this being a terrible idea, and I was proven wrong. As you will see, this Lux does do fairly well, but it's also partially because the Allies don't really focus too much effort on it, because at 17 minutes, a Lux has no business doing really well against the ever-increasing threat of anti-tank that is on the field at this moment in the game. So the Allies are starting to push up fairly aggressively on the left side. Sauron's flak HQ, as you saw earlier, was destroyed by this AT guns. Good push. The German infantry is starting to push back onto the Allied defenses, and one infantry section will go down. So Gabasaway really needs to work on his unit preservation because it's really atrocious. But at least he planted a lot of mines around, which really saved them a lot of times. And honestly, because he lost all of those infantry sections, you can't really blame him for placing mines because he doesn't really have any infantry to upgrade with. So that's pretty good for him. So Khufu went for a KV flamethrower as well as holy shit! I just failed. I just failed so hard. Oh no! Oh, okay. Finally. Yeah, that lag when you switch HUDs is quite atrocious. Ironhide also went for the KV flamethrower, but the double KV flamethrower is not really too great of an idea. As you can see, the Panther IV is pretty much free reign on this squad of the Soviets because it didn't really have any anti-tank. But the KV flamethrower will wisely retreat into a mine, baiting the Panzer IV into it, and a strecked up shock troop. So there's pretty much nothing the Panzer IV can do to chase the KV at this point. One last shot into the rear armor would have destroyed it, but it was insisting on going forward, which was a mistake because, well, the accuracy malice for going forward. Just in case you don't know, vehicles have an accuracy malice if they are moving, so even if they're like engine destroyed moving, which doesn't really make any sense because of course what does do the accuracy, what does decrease the accuracy is the fact that it's moving quickly and so the gunner has to adjust. But you know, Company of Heroes is a very realistic game, but we all know that. So as you can see, Big Devil is attempting to salvage the situation on the right along with his ally. His ally is in very big jeopardy. Pretty much his entire force has been wiped out by Ironhide's assault along with Kfu's flaming artillery strike. Now Ironhide will attempt to push up on the left, which will allow his name, Perro, to recover a little bit. His Lux, as you can see, has already 7 kills, which is not as much as the KB Flamethrower, but still, it's fairly respectable for a Lux at this point to the game. And in this game, I'm really not sure why the Germans didn't go for heavy tanks, because, well, Big Devil and Miss Chi-Chi both went for tier 3. This is something that I touched upon a lot in the other cast that I did for this game. There was a lot of just tier 3. Also, note the land mattress. The British have acquired the land mattress and it's gotten 18 kills in its first 2 barrages, which is excellent for land mattress, as it is a very inaccurate piece of artillery. Yeah, as I was touching on, the Germans, the Wehrmacht players both went for tier 3, and the German players, the OKW ones, went for both just tier 1 into tier 4 builds that then lost to tier 4, or tier 2 into tier 4 builds that lost to tier 4, and then went back into tier 3 back-teching, and then go for a King Tiger. Either of them, they went for Stukas. And then both of them also then go for a kind of Panther or a medium vehicle. So they were all just relying on the Panzer IVs of Miss Chi-Chi and Big Daddy, or no, not Big Daddy, Big Devil. And as you can see, the Panzer IVs in these kinds of situations in the later stages of the game, when the allies are starting to get out their armor, their heavier armor, like the S2 that Ironhide just called up to the field, and the Comet that is on the left side for the British, yeah, they just cannot cut it anymore, especially when there's a nice, healthy, fat wall of AT guns to support them, because the Allies have definitely not been neglecting the AT gun field. So as you can see, the Lux is just doing weird shit, and the S2 just noticed it, and is like, bitch, please run. The Lux has 18 kills somehow, and now it really needs to run away. Of course, the S2 cannot really chase the Lux. By the way, I'm running at like 215 FPS because of this, all the snow and the fire effects that are around, and it's really annoying. And the game is pretty much over at this point. The Germans are making a good push on the left side. They will be able to take out this Comet tank at the cost of one of their Panzer IVs. I'm just going to speed up because there's really not much anymore that's going on. Also, Ironhide lost most of his infantry in an assault over here that I missed earlier on. Because the reason he lost all that infantry, I just briefly went over it with the camera, was because he pushed up a little bit too far with his penals without any kind of infantry support, and that is a terrible idea because your penals cannot, and I repeat, cannot throw AT grenades, so if a kind of tank comes in and starts to shoot at them, there's really no defense for them. And that's why the Lux had 18 kills, was because the Panzer IV and the Lux had caught out the penals, all of the 4 penal squads, and wiped them all in the chase. So that was a really bad loss for Ironhide. And again, what I would have done differently if I was him was go for a tier 3 and go for some Su-76s. As you can see, you have a lot of fuel saved up, and part of that is because your manpower was used up a little bit too much in infantry, and not just infantry, just anti-infantry like penals and shock troops. Perhaps 2 penals and 1 shock troop would have been enough, but I believe he ended up building 2 shock troops, one of whom went down. I'm not exactly sure about that, but I'm pretty sure I remember that. I remember it that way from the other cast. So the AT gun is attempting to push back the S2, which also got a damaged engine from the Panzerfaust. S2 up to 16 kills. What could the other allies have done differently? Carry Sandman played fairly well, even though I didn't really show much of him. He could have been playing a little bit more aggressively in the early game and a bit more careful. Also, he went for anvil tactics, which is very weird. I myself would have gone for hammer tactics. On the left side, as you can see, the CoH2 went for 2 KB flamethrowers, which is in my opinion a mistake. He should have saved up for the S2. And again, he actually went for tier 3, so an SU-76, again, really would have helped out against these Panzer IVs that have been giving him so much trouble. And the other British player, Gabs Away, he did well with his mortars and his mines, but again, unit preservation, really important, and also he lost his comment to Panzer IV, which is kind of embarrassing. But they at least did go for the Crocodile. That's very nice of them to get that heavy tank out on the field as soon as possible. The Germans, again, as I stated, getting out that heavy armor would have been really important because, well, they just kind of got fucked by the fact that they weren't able to deal with these heavy tanks nor these defenses that the Allies have built, and that's kind of just due to a lack of AT and heavy tanks of their own to counter the Allies' compositions. And as you can see right now, the S2 is in a bit of a pickle because it's in close range. It's in a close range encounter with Shreks, which is very bad for it. We'll run away just in time. But we have a Panzer IV being sent in to deal with it, and it will not be nearly enough. But then these two decides to go back into the fray, as well as the KB Flamethrower attempting to push up, and now it will be circle strafed by the vet-free Panzer IV, along with the pack gun firing on it. So that's pretty much the weakness of the S2. It's got very good armor, and, well, yeah, pretty much that's the only good thing about it. And then it's got the fact that it's very slow to reload, and it's got pretty poor accuracy and pretty poor maneuverability. So it's pretty easy to swarm it and destroy it. The other things the Germans could have done, well, Sauron could have gone for less Fallschirmjägers, again, gone for a Panther as well, and if he built his headquarters in a more conservative location, he would have gotten one up, definitely. Miss Chi-Chi, lots of manpower being floated, but she had a decent infantry force. Of course, maybe building a left artillery would have been a really good choice to use some of that extra manpower, because, of course, that artillery piece is very excellent against defensive positions like these that the British are building. And also, in general, against infantry, it's a really good artillery piece. Il Perro, unit preservation, and also not going for a Stuka, which didn't do anything. Yeah, by the way, both OKW players went for Stukas, and they didn't do anything. And Big Devil, what about him? Well, his flame half-track did well. Doctrine selection not really too great. He could have gone for elite troops and tried to use a Tiger Race to salvage the situation. Other than that, he played fairly well with his support weapons, but then he got pretty much hard countered by the land mattresses. So perhaps a little bit more aggressive play would have done him fairly well, instead of relying on his support weapons. So yes, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this cast. I hope you learned something from it, and I'll see you soon.